Some strange and mysterious events have happened over the past decade. Many have been explained through either sinister or more mundane reasons, but some still wait to be solved. Number 5. The disappearance of 20-year-old Davidromo is one of the strangest mysteries to have occurred in the past decade. David last contacted his mother while on a bus home from college. It was a very strange conversation that has left his mother and her supporters puzzled. Multiple failings in the official investigation mean David's mother is no closer to finding out what happened to her son in 2013. Alexandria Cordova last saw her son on May 16, 2013. David studied journalism at the Central University in Ecuador. On the morning of his disappearance, Alexandria drove David to the bus station. He thanked his mother and walked into the station before she left to take her younger daughter to school. Alexandria would later say that she got a strange feeling after she left David and called him while he was at school to make sure he was okay. At about 9:30 p.m., David's ex-girlfriend called his mother. She said something must have happened to him, but wasn't clear on why she thought that. Alexandria tried to assure her that there was nothing wrong. She suspected David would be home in an hour or so. At 10:22 p.m., she called David again. They spoke for a minute. He was talking very quietly. When she asked why, he said he was on the bus and couldn't talk any louder. If he did, he would have to get off the bus. He told her he was almost home and would call her back. But David never called her back and hasn't been seen or heard from since. That same night, Alexandria began calling friends and family to see if they had seen David or knew what had happened, and nobody had. A social media campaign began, and the following day, Alexandria tried to report David missing, but the police said she would have to wait 48 hours. By the time the official investigation started, Alexandria had been organizing searches to try to find out what happened to David. No physical clues have emerged. Eventually, police talked to other passengers on the bus that David had been riding. It emerged that David had been the last person on the bus, alone with the driver and his assistants. The driver and assistants confessed that they had robbed him, and his phone was found with one of the assistants. The driver claimed he had nothing to do with the robbery, but his coworkers said otherwise. Everyone said that he had gotten off the bus alive though, so the mystery of what happened to him continued. Alexandria has not seen David's phone to confirm it was actually his. She's been on a very public campaign to try to find her son, which has resulted in many people contacting her. Most are supportive, but some try to claim they kidnapped David, and they demand a ransom. Others tell stories of his life being taken with dark details. There are so many unanswered questions in this case. Why was David worried on the bus? If he thought someone was going to hurt him, why did he stay on the bus? What caused his ex-girlfriend to think that something was wrong? Somebody knows what happened to David, but 9 years later, this mystery is still unsolved. Number 4. What makes the disappearance of Josh Miller such a strange and scary mystery is how extensive the searches for him have been, and how strange he acted on the last day he was ever seen. Josh was a university student, working 2 jobs and planning to become a police officer. He was living in St. John's in Newfoundland when he disappeared in 2013. On the 8th of February 2013, Josh and a group of friends decided to go out. It was a Friday night, so there was nothing too unusual about this, though Josh and another friend, Fergus Dunphy, had gone out the night before. Fergus lived a 5-minute drive from George Street, the main street for nightlife in the town, so Josh left his car there before heading out. Fergus had decided not to head out that Friday night, but stayed up texting with Josh. He expected his friend would come to spend the night at his place at the end of the night out, and stayed up in case Josh wanted a lift. Josh stopped responding to texts at about midnight. 2 hours later, Josh got into a fight with the guy at a club. The fight spilled out onto the street, and Josh's friends decided it was time for him to head home. They put him in a taxi and continued with their night out. Rather than heading back to Fergus's house, Josh asked to be taken to the Blue Putty Drive, an area on the edge of town. It was a location in the complete opposite direction of Fergus's house. He claimed to be meeting a friend there, but nobody who knew Josh knew any of the friends that would have lived in that area. For some reason, Josh decided to skip out on the fair, running from the taxi and leaving his jacket and phone behind. It was negative 20 degrees Celsius at the time. According to the taxi driver, Josh went to a house, but it seemed that there was nobody there. Josh was reported missing 2 days later, and a search of the wilderness surrounding St. John's began. The taxi driver and the person Josh had been fighting with were both interviewed, but police determined neither had anything to do with his disappearance. There were a number of sightings of Josh reported to police, though. One was made by the roommate of his ex-girlfriend. She said she saw him near their old home, which wasn't too far from Fergus's house. Another sighting placed him at a nearby mall. If either sighting was actually of Josh, he would have had to have walked for 2 hours in the freezing cold, or gotten a lift from an unknown individual. Despite numerous searches, no sign of Josh has ever been found. His friends and family believe foul play was involved, though why someone would want to hurt Josh is a mystery. Another possibility is that he suffered a head injury during the fight, which led to him acting strangely, and he simply succumbed to exposure. Until Josh is found, it's likely the answer to this strange mystery will never be solved. Number 3. One of the most mysterious unsolved mysteries from the past decade took place above the skies of Chile in 2014. It took 2 years for the strange event to become public, after experts were left baffled. The event took place on November 11, 2014. 2 members of the Chilean Navy were on a routine patrol in a helicopter, equipped with an infrared and HD camera. They were flying at about 4,500 feet along the coast of West Santiago. There were some clouds above and below the helicopter, but good visibility horizontally. As the technician tested the camera, he noticed something strange. There was a silvery disc-like object flying at the same altitude as the helicopter. It was roughly 55 kilometers away, and seemed to be keeping the pace with them. The technician filmed the unknown craft using the infrared camera, which showed that it was extremely hot. The pilot tried to contact the craft by radio, but got no response. He then contacted 2 ground-based radar stations to see if they knew what it was. Neither station was able to detect the unidentified aircraft, though they could both see the Navy helicopter. They also said there was no aircraft to be cleared in that area, and no explanation for what the 2 Navy men were seeing. The helicopter's radar also couldn't pick up the mysterious craft, and the camera couldn't log onto it. Things only got stranger when the mysterious object emitted a cloud of hot gas from behind it. Seen through the infrared lens, it looked like a trail of black smoke coming out from the disc. When viewed through the HD camera, the trail was a pale white and blended in with the other clouds. It was something very hot, but not easy to see with the human eye. The crew stopped filming at the end of their patrol, and the mysterious craft disappeared behind a cloud. An official investigation took place involving scientists from around the world, as well as Chilean military personnel. The investigation couldn't conclude what the mysterious aircraft was. There were no known military exercises in the area, and any other aircraft would have appeared on the radar. The investigation was able to rule out a lot of things like weather balloons, and confirmed that the Navy men had actually seen something, rather than it being an artifact on the camera lens, but they couldn't confirm what it was. The craft was labeled as an unidentified aerial phenomenon, and still needs to be explained. Number 2. The disappearance of Odin Jacobsen is a strange unsolved missing person case from Norway. Odin's case has been upgraded and downgraded over the years, but his family is no closer to finding out what happened to him. Odin was 18 years old when he and a group of friends decided to go out on November 17, 2018. The friends decided to rent a hotel room for a party where they could drink alcohol and watch TV. At about 5 a.m. the following morning, Odin and about 5 other friends left the hotel. They were caught on CCTV walking in one direction altogether. A short while later, the friends returned to the frame walking the other way, but Odin was not with them. Over the next hour or so, Odin was spotted on CCTV multiple times. The last sighting on camera was at just after 6 a.m. in the port area. He hasn't been seen or heard from since. Odin's friends say that they had parted ways to go home. Odin had told them he was going to catch a bus, despite the fact that the earliest bus wouldn't arrive for a few hours. 12 days after Odin disappeared, some of his belongings were found at the port where he was last seen on CCTV. His bank card, bus card, passport, and mobile phone were neatly stacked beside a wall. 400 meters away, a bag of Odin's gym clothes and one shoe were discovered. Odin had gone straight to the party after working out, so he would have had these items when he vanished. A search of the area, including the water surrounding the docks, took place, but no other physical evidence was found. The only strange thing police did find was a piece of CCTV footage. At about midday on November 18th, a white station wagon pulled up beside one of the containers where Odin's clothes were found. A man got out of the car and seemed to look around for a moment before getting back into the car. 5 months later, in a forested area more than 12 miles away from where Odin was last seen, another discovery was made. Some of Odin's personal items, including clothes, were found partially destroyed in the remains of a bonfire. Odin's disappearance made it onto an unsolved crime show in Norway, with requests for information on Odin and the mysterious person in the white car. It emerged that the owner of the car was a man police had already interviewed as a potential witness. The man told police that he had seen Odin's clothes at the pier and had stolen them, not realizing who they belonged to. After he realized Odin was a missing person, he burned the clothes, believing that they would incriminate him. Police searched his property and found no other evidence connecting the man to Odin's disappearance. He was charged with perjury, having lied to the police in his initial interview, but nothing more. Police now didn't think Odin had met with foul play, but his father believes otherwise. He has also urged friends to come forward if they know more than they have let on. The case has now gone cold. Number 1. The Penturk Incident was a strange phenomenon that occurred over the skies of a rural Welsh village in 2016. Somewhat similar to the infamous Roswell crash, the incident hasn't gained that much attention and remains unexplained. The incident took place in the village of Penturk, which is mostly a commuter village for nearby Cardiff. There is a Ministry of Defense base nearby, and the residents were relatively familiar with training exercises, even though the base itself focused on training non-flight staff. For 2 days before the incident, spotter planes were in the air over the village. There was always at least one of the planes in the air, which was very unusual for a training exercise. What followed was unlike any training exercise any of the residents had ever seen. At about 4 a.m. on February 26, 2016, residents were awoken by loud noises, buildings shaking, and strange lights in the sky. Witnesses described orange lights which formed a triangular shape in the sky, and green lights coming away from the main collection of lights. According to witnesses, military helicopters chased the lights, and at one point seemed to land in a field. Another witness described what looked like a hand made from lightning reaching out from the lights towards the ground near her. Social media was flooded with speculation, and the police received multiple phone calls. The following day, the military claimed it was a typical training exercise, but this wasn't a story that many would buy. Seismic readers noted that something strange definitely happened that night, something that investigators couldn't explain. When civilians tried to investigate the site where the strange object apparently touched down, they were turned away, though police were never able to give them a solid reason why. The military story changed multiple times with every Freedom of Information Act request, and in the end they simply claimed disclosing what had happened that night wasn't in the public's best interest. When ufologists were able to get to the field where the strange occurrences were said to have taken place, they found higher than usual levels of electromagnetic radiation, which they couldn't explain. It seems unlikely what appeared in the skies above the small Welsh village was actually extraterrestrial, but the possibility that this was something man-made doesn't make it any less mysterious. This may be one mystery that isn't explained until decades later. If this was some sort of secret technology the military isn't ready for the world to see just yet. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future videos. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys next time.